All right, welcome everybody. This is LPA's second quarter training. Today's topic is reporting. I like to call it reporting survival. Everything you need to know to get by and survive in Counterpoint. As I mentioned before, I've got a really wide variety of wide range of folks on the call today. People have used the software 10 years. People have used the software 10 weeks. But I will try to hit that sweet spot of some useful information for everybody. I'm Tom Downs, and any questions, you can submit them during chat. I'll definitely try to have some time at the very, very end. I will mention, in case I forget later, on the list I looked at today, over half of you have Counterpoint fixed fee, which is the agreement with LPA that says you're able to ask us questions. We even schedule some hours of training throughout the year on topics that are important. So if out of today you're really fired up about reporting, you're like, man, I want to know some more, or even if you just want clarification on some things we covered, please contact JC or myself, and we can schedule some additional training on this topic or any others. All right, so as you can see here, the topic today is, we want to get the most out of your Counterpoint investment by training you, making sure you get the most out of this. Today's specific topics are going to be on reporting. And this is really a presentation. I've done this many, many years. And really, when we talk with business owners and people who run their retail, oftentimes they really want to know, give me 3, 4, maybe 5 reports. Give me the information I need to run my business. And most of the retailers that I talk to, they don't want 35 reports. They want a few key reports. They can manage their business and keep a handle on what's going on. So today I'm going to show you some 5 or 6 key reports in Counterpoint that I've learned from my users are useful. We're also going to look at something called sales by group, and the name is not very exciting. Sales by group doesn't sound very exciting. Maybe what they should have really called it was report builder, or maybe the mother of all sales reports, because the idea is this one report can be modified by you guys, the users, and saved in many different ways to get at useful information. So we'll be talking about that. As we go along the way, I'll show you how we can modify filters in reports. That's a very useful skill to help narrow down the information you want. And as we go along the way, I promise I'll show you a few ninja tricks that you can impress your friends and show your family. Sound good? The only sad part of having them mute is I don't get to hear any reactions. So either you're laughing or you're groaning, but I guess I'll have to find out later which it was. Okay, so that's where we're headed. Today I'm going to use a demo company that I've got set up here. And I'm going to pop that open. So we're going into my LPA demo company today, and we'll talk through some of the basics here. So for starters, I hope everybody has used Counterpoint a little bit and you know the basics of kind of navigating your way around. We covered that in the January class. If you want to copy that January class, let JC know, and we'll send you a link to that. But just very, very briefly, everyone should know that in Counterpoint, there's the navigation on the far left. You can click into these different menu areas, and you can navigate your way around. I'm just checking here. I think I got one person not muted, and I'm just going to see if I can find them real quick. Get everybody muted. All right, so the reason why I want to make sure everyone knows about navigating is under each of these main headers, there's an area for reporting. So for example, under point of sale, you'll notice there's something called reports. And if you go a little further, there's history and there's journals. Same is true if I went to inventory, then there's an area for reports. Again, if you keep drilling down, you'll get down into history. Same is true if I looked at sales history. There's an area for reports, etc. The reason why I like to point that out is oftentimes I might get a phone call or someone will call up and say, hey, I'm looking for an inventory report. I want to know what my valuation was on, December 31st. And in my brain, as someone who's used the software for a long time, as soon as I hear that word inventory, I'm thinking, okay, most likely the report I'm looking for is probably going to be under inventory, probably down under reports. And there's a bunch here, but at least I've kind of narrowed my search, right? In that particular example, chances are maybe I'm looking for the valuation report. So I'd come down here, and I hope everybody knows you can preview reports in Counterpoint, which is this button right here. You can't break or hurt anything in Counterpoint by previewing a report. So I really encourage people in any training I do on reporting to, go around, explore these different areas. A lot of the names are pretty straightforward, and try them out. With an example of inventory, there's about 30, 35 reports just tucked down here under inventory. They're all slight variations. They have different emphasis, and there's over 300 reports in Counterpoint, and I promise you, I will never offer a training where we go through each and every one of the 300. But I do, as a trainer, want to point you to kind of where to look. And again, just realize you can preview a report. You'll never break anything by previewing. By the way, if you're in the most recent version of Counterpoint, which I believe most of you are, meaning your menu looks like this, please know that along with just knowing how the menus are laid out, please know that you have this search ability. So maybe from today's training, you're like, oh, he talked about a valuation report, but I don't remember where it was. You can come into here. You'll notice even as I begin to type, it's already starting to narrow down, and I can get down to a few reports. In this case, the report I was probably looking for was valuation. And there's two flavors of the valuation. Valuation is, if I ran this today, this tells me what's today's values. Historical valuation is a report that I can point to a date in the past. So that's just one example of how you can easily find reports and kind of an idea of where to start looking. So that's the heads up on if you've not really done much with reports, that's a starting point. So having said that, I want to get to a very common question that I get asked is, what's a few reports? What are a few reports? We just went live with Counterpoint. Help me with reports I can be looking at to run my business. So the first one that I want to show you is down under sales history. And again, by the way, I didn't mention this, but this session is recorded today. And I'm purposely going probably a little faster than I would go in person, simply because I want to get everything in an hour. And I know it's on the recording, so you can refer back to the recording. So here we go. Sales history reports. There's one called Flash Sales. Now that name, the name itself, you might never ever click on that because it doesn't really sell itself as to what it is. But I'm going to go into Flash Sales. What this really is, this is kind of like a business summary report. So I'm just going to, I've got some defaults here. I'm running this for a date range that I know have some data. I'm just going to preview this and show you this nifty report. And I'm going to use this tool all day long today to make this bigger. So hopefully we can all see this pretty well. Maybe I'll make this even a little bigger. So the name Flash Sales may not really jump out at you, but really what this is this has some key metrics for running a business. And I don't know a retailer that I've ever met who isn't interested in knowing what did you sell in some date range. In this case, I chose a week, but this could have been yesterday. This could have been this month versus last year. This could be an entire year, right? I get to choose my date range. So in this simple example, I can see my stores going down the column here. I can see sales. I can see profit. Profit percent, really a big deal, right? Let's say you're a liquor store, or you're a nursery, or you're a clothing shop, but knowing how you're hitting on your profits, right? Maybe your vendors have gradually, kind of inched up on their costs, especially with COVID, and something that a year ago you're doing great on your margins, maybe you're starting to slip somewhere. So that's super helpful, very cool, and that's just the first three columns. So if we go a little further, we get into quantity sold, nice to know, decent metric, and then average ticket, and that's in dollars, by the way. And again, I don't know a retailer who isn't interested in knowing this kind of information, especially that average ticket. That's where you get into realizing, how you can bump up your sales. Maybe you have some additional items around the register, and you try to get that add-on sale, bump up your average tickets right at the time of sale. So again, a pretty simple report, but tons of good information, and one that I know a lot of business owners, this is the first report they run every day, right? What happened this week, what happened last year, whatever. Some cool things about this report, and I didn't have this turned on, but you can have a comparison date range. So I can click this checkbox. By default, it'll drop in last year's date, so I can compare this year to last year. But you can put in any dates you want. So you could run this for April of this year and compare it to the prior month if you wanted. So that's a cool thing about this report. This particular report has a select columns tab. So I went with the defaults, but you'll notice that Counterpoint has another 30, 35 choices you can pick and choose. So really you can kind of dial in this report to be columns or information that's useful to you. So that's the first one I like to show people, especially since it may not be one that you'd go click on by yourself. So that's flash sales. So that's number one. The next one that is a really useful report, I'm going to go over to sales history. I'm going to go to reports, and I'm going to go, oh, I lied. Did I lie? I lied. I'm going to point of sale reports history. And we're going to look at one called drawer history. Now, this is one that most people run this every single day, or they run it, if it's Tuesday, then we run it for yesterday. So for this one, let me pick a date range. Okay, I got a date range. So everybody's used to running this typically for their drawers, right? You counted your drawers yesterday. Maybe you're the person that comes in the next morning, counts the drawers, does the bank deposit, whatever. So a lot of folks are used to this report, and they run it for one day at a time for their cash, for pulling out your cash. But this very same report, if you go to the event tab, you can actually put a date range. A lot of people don't realize this. And on the first tab, instead of seeing all the minutia of each individual drawer, I changed my checkboxes here, and I changed it to say, I just want to see store totals. So again, this is the drawer summary report. A lot of you probably see this every day right now, but you can just make, with a few clicks, instead of seeing drawer level detail, you can see store level detail. So just change that there, put a date range here. I'm going to preview this. And you might say, well, what's the big deal? And I'll say, this is the big deal. This report that you're used to looking at maybe daily can be used. In this case, I did this for a week, but you could do it for a month, you could do it for a year, and you have a whole bunch of good information all in one place. It's very common. I'll get people call me up and they'll say, well, where's the report? I can see my gift card sales, right? Well, it's right here on drawer summary, and it's this line item right here where it says gift card. A lot of people ask me questions about, is there a one-stop place where I can see taxes along with other things? There is. That's very simplified. If you want to know more detail about taxes, there are some tax reports. But just at a very high level, there's taxes. On the right side, we have a breakout of how our cash came in. And one of the things that is on this side is gift cards used or gift cards redeemed. So again, a lot of people, they'll ask me questions for, oh, I want to see gift card sales, or I want to see taxes in one place, or whatever. And this isn't always, it's not the first report that jumps out at you, but it actually has a ton of information just in one place. So that's drawer history. And again, how I got here was from the main menu. It was simply point of sale reports history. It's called drawer history. And the trick on this is just to uncheck all the detail, because we don't, if we're looking for at a month or a year, the last thing we want to see is every single day, every single drawer. But just uncheck those. Just look at store totals, and on the event tab, put in your day range. So that's number two. That's called drawer history. The next thing I'm going to go to here, from the main menu, I'm going to head over to sales history and reports. Just mute somebody here real quick. My clicker's not so great. Here we go. We'll have to find out after lunch what's going on. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing everybody. Just double check that you're muted. I heard just somebody coming through real. There we go. All right, so continuing here, another decent report. This is going to be under, I'll go back to the main menu so you can see the path. From sales history, I'm going to reports, and here's that report, sales analysis by group. And this is definitely one we always train on when we do any kind of report training. And what's so great about this is it's really a build your own report. So I'm going to go ahead and click on sales analysis by group. And I'll show you what this looks like. So when the first time you ever use this, I don't know how it might be grouped. It may not be useful whatsoever. But if you look in here, there's a whole bunch of different fields you can choose to group by. And I'll show you a really common way of grouping this report. A really common way is to group this by the item category. So we're gonna build our own category report real quick. So I want to see all the categories. I'll pick some date range. In this case, I'm choosing a date range that I know my demo data has some information. I could choose all stores or individual stores. And then on the Select Columns tab, this is where it really gets powerful. You get to pick and choose the different columns that you want to see here. So for a category report, sales sounds great. Quantity sold, some profit, average ticket, fine. All sounds great. If I wanted to keep going, these are some tabs out here. I could filter this even further. So for example, rather than running this for the world, I could maybe run this just for one vendor. All right. For this example, I'll just keep it simple. We'll just do it kind of wide open. So this report, again, started out as sales by item, but just based on the choices I made, we just created a category report. I'm going to go ahead and preview this so you can see this. And at first glance, may not seem that exciting, but this is going down the left side. This is categories. And then we got to pick what we wanted to see here. So we chose sales, quantity sold, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But those are just happen to be some choices we chose. We could, maybe we look at this and say, yeah, average ticket really at a category level I'm less interested in. And maybe there's something else on this list that we do want to see, like maybe returns. Okay, so just like that, with a couple clicks, I changed this report, and instead of seeing a column we didn't really care about, we dropped on something we did care about. So now we have category report, we can see sales, quantity sold, profit, see returns, all in one place. So, and we did that all just by clicking around, right? Didn't take a call to a developer, didn't have to call up LPA. Just playing around with these filters. So that's a pretty handy one. And by the way, if you want to wow whoever you turn this report into, if you want to really wow them, there's a checkbox there for show pie chart. And go ahead and turn that on and look at what a pretty report you get just like that, right? And that took us less than about 2 minutes to come up with that. So you can see here, nice little sales report here. My demo company happens to be a liquor company, in case you didn't notice. So we have this nice breakout. There's my sales by categories, and I get to see whatever columns I have here. Now, this is all nifty, but let's say you dial this in and you really like what you've come up with, but you don't want to have to remember every time you run this report all those choices. So the answer for that is down here under Options. I can click on Options, and there's something called Save Parameters. So I'm going to click Save Parameters, and I'm going to give this a name here. I'm going to call this Sales by Category. All right, and by doing that, the next time I come to Sales Analysis by Group, I can click that, and I can go to Options, and I can say Load Parameters, and I can pick from this list, and there's my Sales by Category. I can say Load. And just like that, boom, I'm right back to whatever I had. So each person in the company, anyone can define their own report. And so you could have one called, JC's sales, or, Kevin's monthly sales, or something like that. So you can get these dialed in, you can save them with your own parameters, and the next time you come to run the report, you can go to Sales by Group, and you can pull up your parameters, away you go. For my example, I saved some hard-coded dates because I wanted some data from my demo database. But instead of a special date, you could say things like month to date. And if you do that, then this will continually float and change. So when you recall your parameters and run it, if we were in June, then this would default to June's month to date. And so that's why this is here. Sometimes people say, well, what's that all about? Why is there a drop down for all the different date choices? That's just simply so that when you save your parameters, they can be a little more dynamic. And each time you recall these, they're ready to go. Now, I will tell you a little heads up on where we're headed. This is handy that I can save these parameters, and it's really great that I can reload them at any time. But one of the last things I'll show today is I'll show you how you can create your own menus. And so I'm going to close. I'll show you example, a little heads up of spoiler alert where we're headed. I created my own menu. Here I added a button or a field for manager reports, and I can pick and choose and drop reports on here. So maybe you have a few reports you want your managers running every day, or maybe you have some owner reports, and it'd be really nice to have them all in one place. And before we are done today, I will show you how you can create this. And along with this, when we drop menus on here, we can save those parameters that we just created, and we can make it like about a 2-click report to get back to running sales by category or sales by item. So this is where we're headed, but for a little bit we're going to go back to how we kind of create the building blocks that are going to lead up to that menu. Okay, so I'm going to go back under sales history reports and the sales by group, and now I'm going to show you a little bit of the flexibility or why this is such a nifty report and why we like it so much. So by default, I currently have it set up so it's grouping by category. But let's say instead of doing this at a category level, I might decide to go and, let's see if I can find it really easily here. I might decide to group by ticket history line item number, okay? And when I do this, now instead of being a sales by category report, now this becomes a sales by item. And because we're dealing with sales by item, quantity sold, that's a pretty important one. So I'm going to use this move up because I want that first thing on the report. That's the first thing I want to see. And maybe for the moment I'm less interested in returns. I'm more interested in these other deals here. So I've dialed this in to be a sales by item. I'm so happy and confident that this is going to be an awesome report. I'm going to click on options, say save parameters. I'm going to call it a sales by item. So let's preview this. And now, just like that, we created our own sales by item. Now currently this is ranked. You can see here it says ranking value is shaded. That's a reminder of how the report is sorted. So in this case, I'm currently sorting by the item number, which might be helpful. But I could also go back to the report and here where it says print and order by, let's say by quantity sold, which is one of my columns. I can preview that. And now this just became a bestsellers report, just like that. So now, and I chose to sort on quantity. You might say, well, no, sales are more important, so we could choose to sort on sales. But just there, with a few clicks, I've created my own item report and really made it into my own bestsellers report with my highest quantity selling floating to the top for this week period. All right. So, and again, when you dial this in, when you have what you like, you can go to options, save parameters, give it a name. In this case, I like to call this sales by item report Tom, and save that. And then again, how would you get that back? Another time, you come right back to sales analysis by group, and you can go to your options, load parameters, and there's my sales by item report Tom. Now, while I'm looking at this report, maybe I pulled this up and this was how I ran it last week and I like this, but maybe today I want some different information or I decide to sort by sales. I can change, I can make different changes, change the date range, preview, all that. I don't have to save those parameters, right? So the nice thing about this is I can come in, I can play with this, look at this different ways. Maybe instead of looking at the world, I can decide that I'm just going to run this for one category. I'll just pick on Brandy. And so now this, instead of being a 700-page report, suddenly this is now just a 3-page report where I have my top sellers for a particular category. I could have done this also. I could have filtered for a vendor, right? So that's the idea behind this report. Again, super flexible. Just to show you a few variations. So we did a sales by category. We did a sales by item. I can show you that if I just change this to primary vendor and preview this, let me take off my filter. This now becomes a sales by vendor report. right? That was just one change, and automatically this is a sales by vendor report. Here's a cool one that a lot of people don't realize that's in here. We're going to go down into under the tab here for ticket history. There's a choice for hour, so let's check this out. I'm going to put my pie chart back on. And this is super cool. A lot of people don't realize you could do this so easily. Just by using the sales by group report and deciding to group by hour, this now shows you a breakout of your sales by hour. And it's running down the left side of the page. This was ranked by sales, so I can see in this example of this store in this week, 4 o'clock was the heavy hitter. We can also tell that a little bit by this pie chart, that 16 is kind of the biggest chunk. I'm going to rank this in a different way. Human beings, we think in terms of hour, right? So I'll just sort that by hour. Same report. The only difference is now on the left side now going down, there's my time. So time of day, sold. This could be very helpful, right? If you're considering, well, it's really worth staying open past 6. How many sales do we really get after 7? Super helpful report, right? And you can give yourself some data to back up any decisions about, is it worth staying open past 7, or what do we really pull in after 7? So that's an example of by hour. Again, that's simply how did you get there? Sales by group report, and we chose to group by ticket history hour. Here's one more, and then we'll probably move on after past this, but here's one. Actually, let's see. I want to save this one. Let's save those options because that was a good report. So save parameters, and we'll call this sales by hour, like so. The last one, you can come in here and play with these and try different things. You could group this by zip code. If you wanted to see where your customers are coming from, you could group this by city. All kinds of different ways you can group this. But let's check out, this is one that you may not notice. Ticket history, month, day. I really like this one, and here's why. When I preview this report, make this a little bigger. You'll notice here on the left side, we have the day going down the left side, and we have quantity sold here. So I think this may be one of the few reports in Counterpoint that I know of where you'll see dates going down the left side, and you can see sales. So in terms of, people oftentimes ask me things about trending. I want to see how my store is doing. I want to see trends. I want to see how it's performing. Here's an example of looking at one store 1 week, and you can see how it's kind of trending over that week, right? So that's a cool report. And again, how did we get there? Simply sales by group report, and we chose to group by month day. All right, so that's enough on that. I encourage everybody to go and play around with this. And again, the real power of it is once you have something dialed in, using your options to save those parameters, and then being able to pull them back again later. Okay, so that was sales by group. I mentioned earlier the valuation report, but I want to show that again because that's a pretty important report. So if I go to inventory, if I go to reports, there are 2 flavors of this report. Valuation, if I run this, this would show me, I'm going to filter this just for, this is a good example. I'm so glad I came here. So I'm going to show you 2 things while we're here. So number 1, this is a great report because when you run this, it'll show you today's valuation. But let's say I don't want to see this for the whole enterprise. Maybe I just want to see one location. And I'm noticing right now I don't see location as a choice. So this is very much a ninja trick. But if you want to graduate from just kind of reporting basics to the next step up, it's being able to change filters. So in this example, I'm going to right click anywhere in this white area. There's a choice down here called Customize. And even though this kind of looks weird at first, this is the editor that allows me to make some different choices about how I want to filter. So right here where it's red, that's a reminder that I can click on that, and I get a whole list of things I can choose from. In this case, location was what I cared about, and I'm going to add that on. I didn't have that before, but I will right click here. The opposite of customize is simplify. And now, just like that, I've added another thing I can use for filtering. So I'm going to right click. If I like my changes, I'm going to say save as default. And the reason I choose default, most organizations, very few customers that I work with are so big that this change wouldn't be useful to somebody else, right? I mean, I guess maybe if you're, I don't know, Target, then maybe you'd want to have your own filter, jeans, monthly inventory valuation filter or something. But for most folks, chances are if it was useful to you to drop on location on this filter, chances are it's going to be useful to somebody else in your group. So that's what we just did. So what was the point of that? When we first came into this inventory report, I didn't have a filter for location, but the way we got it on there was we right-clicked, we went to something called Customize. We didn't have the choice initially, but we clicked down here, added another one. And by the way, the wording here can be altered also. So if I click on where it says is exactly, I could change that to say between, and then I could have a range. Again, how you get out of this editor is simply right click, simplify, and now we're back. So I just saw I added item number by accident, so let me go back here and get rid of that. I don't need to see that. But so what we just did is we added this here. And again, if I want this to be here next time, I'll say save as default. If it's a one-time thing, you don't have to save it. It won't be there next time. So in this example, we'll just say we want to look at location 1, preview. So, and this is kind of a detailed version. Let me change that, and we'll make this a little easier on the eyes. Summary. So this is a valuation report summary version. I'm filtering just for one location, and I'll preview that. So this is a handy report, especially if you are the person who's responsible for what's our value, or what were we at on a particular day. So this always shows you today's value. If I go to the very last page, I can see totals and whatnot. It's very common, though, that people need to know values, not just today, but some date in the past, right? How often I get calls about the second week of January, and people are like, yeah, we need to know our valuation on December 31st, which was 2 weeks ago, right? So it's a good thing Counterpoint has this one called historical valuation. And where this becomes useful is you can come in, you can pick and choose how you group this. Right now I've got some defaults set up for category. We'll start there. Just like before, I'm going to filter just for one location. And I get to pick some date in the past. I did not test this one before, so I hope I'm not going to be sad that I hope this doesn't take forever, but I'll find out. The way this report works is it starts with today's items in inventory, and it actually works backwards. It takes all the transactions, works them backwards to get to some date in the past. So in this case, I said, okay, what was my valuation as of 5/26 for a single location? This one happened to be grouped by category, so I have these nice kind of high-level look as to what's going on. If I go to the bottom, I can see totals, total quantity, total cost, total retail, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So again, if you're the person that is responsible for inventory management, that's the answer to where do I find my valuation. I'm going kind of super quick here today, but I'm very conscious of time, and I want to be sure we get through as much as I can and still leave a few minutes for questions. So that's the valuation. There's 2 versions of that. One more important report I've got to show you here. I'm going to go over to now inventory, and I'm going to go to reports. Now there's some basic ones like inventory analysis, inventory status. You can go ahead and play with those. You can run those reports. They'll show you items. They'll show you quantity on hands, very inventory type reports. But the one I really want to show you, and again, you can come and play with these, see the different, each of them have kind of different emphases. But the one I want to show you is merchandise analysis. Again, this is very much like sales analysis by group. This is a build your own report. So if I click on this, we get a lot of choices about how we want to build this. So for my example here, I'm going to go with some defaults that I have, but we're going to look at an item level. This particular report we can group. So even though we're looking at individual items, we can group it. So that's kind of nice. We'll group this by category. In my example, what I want to see, we'll make this kind of a bestsellers report. We'll look at the top 10 items in each group based on quantity sold. And then again, I have some date range, and I could pick and choose some quantity or some columns. I'm going to go with some defaults here. So things like what quantity sold, sales, what's my current quantity on hand? Okay, kind of interesting. And again, on the last two tabs, I have some options here to filter. In this case, I'm going to filter just for a single location. And we'll check this out. So this is the merchandise analysis by group report, but with a few filtering going on here. So let's preview this. And I honestly think this might be one of my favorite reports in all of Counterpoint, to be quite honest. And here's why. So with just a few choices that we made there, we have a report, and this becomes your best sellers report. And who wouldn't want to know what's selling, right? Not just based on what your cashiers think or people's opinions. It's like how nice to come in. And it's grouped by category, so it really gives you a high-level view of what's happening in your stores. So in this particular case, I grouped this I ranked it by quantity sold. So we could have done this by sales, but I went with quantity sold. And what's really cool about this report is, as an inventory report, it has information about quantity on hand. So this far right column, because it's an inventory report, inventory reports typically know things about quantity, but it also has sales information, right? Normally these kind of reports have sales. We find those over in the sales history area, but this is actually kind of a hybrid report where you can see both sales and quantity on hand information in the same report. If you want to get really fancy, you could take this report, go here, and there's a column. See if I can scroll down here. Oops, I just lose my connection. There is a column called weeks on hand. So I had quantity on hand, but now check this out. So if I preview this, so now not only can you see, here's my best sellers, which is great to know that, right? Here's things they're selling. I can see for some date range I picked how much I sold. And it's great to see what's my quantity on hand, but then Counterpoint does the math for me and says, well, based on your date range, if you're selling so much a week, and this is how many you have on hand, well, then this is roughly how many weeks you have on hand. So obviously, if you have things that are just flying off the shelf, you'd really want to like to have those in stock, right? That's where you make your money. So this can be kind of that report that gives you the tap on the shoulder and says, oh, here's your best sellers, and by the way, here's a few. If you have less than a week of supply, maybe that should be a tap on the shoulder to be reordering, right? So I don't pretend that this is a purchasing class, but this is a nifty report. And again, how did we create this? We got this by going to merchandise analysis, and we had some groupings. We said we're going to look at this by item. We'll see all there, ranked by quantity, grouped by category, and here's how you get that top 10 in each category, because you chose this, and then you get to pick some date range. So I encourage everybody to check this out. Once you've got it dialed in, and I must have already done this, you can save your parameters and give this some name. In my case, I call this demo. You might call it top 20 or best sellers or whatever. All right, so that's 4 or 5 reports that you should definitely need to know about. We talked about flash sales, drawer summary, how the sales by group can be used in different ways. Now you have another one to add to your bag of tricks, the merchandise analysis. We also mentioned a few inventory reports there. So now I want to show you, and I'm really running short on time here, but I want everybody to at least know that you can create your own menu choices here. And if in the 2 minutes I show you how to do this, it doesn't stick, let me know. We can always schedule a follow-up and help. Or maybe we just have a whole class just on creating menus if this is of interest. But here's a menu I created. I called it Manager Reports, and I dropped on some of the reports we talked about today, right? And I want to show you how we did this so you can do it for yourself. So the first thing you'd need to know is what menu code you use. So if you go to Setup System and you go to Users and you look yourself up, I think I'm LPA. If you go look yourself up, you'll see here something called System Security, and this will give you an idea of what your menu code is. okay? System, or in my case, it's system or SA. And knowing that information, I'm going to go to Setup System, and there's something called Menu Codes. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go choose my menu, which was called SA, and we'll go into this tool called a Menu Editor. Of course, be careful if you go in to experiment with this, because you will affect other users. Anybody that's in your menu code will get affected by this. But what I did was I added a folder called Manage Reports. The way you can add, well, I should tell you, on the left side of this is what's on your menu, your custom menu. And on the right side is a menu or a library of all the choices. So if I drill into this, for example, sales history, reports, there's flash sales. So the right side is like your library that you can choose from, and the left side is your actual menu. So I'm going to create, just so you can see how this happens, I'm going to right click on here, say new, create a folder, and I'll call this demo. Give that a name. And maybe if I right click on this, I might want to move this up a little. Put this right under Manage Reports. Okay, so right now my demo doesn't have anything in it, but I'll show you how easily we can click over here, drill down into Sales History Reports. Here's one called Flash. Just going to drag and drop Flash Sales over to my demo. So just like that, I've got that. Another report that we looked at was under Point of Sale. Let's see, Point of Sale Reports, History, Drawer History. That was a handy one. I'll just do one more example. Under Sales History, we'll go. Actually, I'm going to grab the Sales Analysis by Group. I'm going to grab that a couple times because we saved a few parameters, and we're going to dial this in a few ways. So the first one, when I dragged it over, here's the name that's going to show up on the menu. And for Flash Sales, that's fine. That's all the name I need. Same is true for Drawer History. Those defaults are just fine. This one, I'm going to be a little fancier because we created some parameters before. I can actually select those in advance, so no one has to click on Load Parameters. So I had one called Sales, Sales by Category. So there's my Sales by Category. And I'm going to change this name a little bit so I know what this is. Sales by Cat. So there's one. We're going to do one that's Sales by Item. And you can see how we go here. I'm going to do one last one. I think we had a Sales by Hour. So we're Sales by Hour. All right, so we just created our own folder. We put a few items in here. The standard ones, I'll do one last standard one, the Inventory Valuation Report. We'll do the history one. So again, if it's just a stock report, there's no need to do anything special report parameters. It's just some of those kind of those build your own reports where it's kind of nice that you can pre-save your filters or your parameters. So we made some changes here. I'm going to hit close, save that. I'm going to save here, and you'll see it refreshes in the background. And voila, with no further ado, we now have a folder we didn't have before called Demo. And these are here simply because we just dropped those in. So there's a Flash Sales, there's a Drawer History, and then these guys, you know now the secret behind these. Each one of these is just a Sales Analysis Report. When I click on it, you'll recognize it. That's just the Sales by Group report. But this is already preloaded because I created some parameters. I saved them in the menu. It's already dialed in to be a category report. So if you're maybe you're a manager, you're creating this for the owner, make their life easier. That becomes a two-click report, right? One click to go to Sales by Cat, and let's say you always have it set up to be month to date or whatever, and one click to say preview. So really, really simplify reporting for folks that just need to maybe get in and check some things. Same is true for sales by item. Still, it's just the sales by group, but it's already loaded up our parameters for grouping by item. Same is true by sales by hour. It's just the sales by group report, group by hour. All right, so very, very quickly, those were my top 5 or so reports. There's a few honorable mentions. I won't run these reports, but I want you to at least know that they exist. Under inventory reports, actually I might at least preview one. There's one called retail value. And I've got some, I was playing with this yesterday, so I saved some parameters in here. I'm just looking at one item, but so you can see this report really quickly. Retail value, this is a really interesting report. Not many places in Counterpoint where you can see this. This is one item, and you'll notice here, beginning, and it's retail cost and quantity. What happened in the state range? So what was received, adjustments, transfers, sales, discounts and markdowns, and ending. So I don't know, if you're the kind of person that's interested in these kind of things pertaining to your items, you can also run this, I believe, at a category level. But really kind of cool. You kind of see what happened to an item over the course of time. That's definitely the only report I know in Counterpoint that shows you all that information in one place. Now, you could run a receivings report. You could run an adjustments report. You could run 5 or 6 different reports to find that information. But that's pretty cool that it's in one place. And again, I happen to run that by item. You could group it by category or something else. Run it by vendor. Another cool report, I'm really trying to wind down here. 2 reports are right next to each other. One's called 6-week item history. One's called 12-month. I'll just preview this real quick. Sometimes people ask me about trending. I'm going to run this for a date range. Again, I'm going to filter this just for one item. Sometimes people ask me about, well, you know, where in Counterpoint can I kind of see trends, or where can I see what's happening? In this particular example, 6-week item history, and I ran this for an individual item, but you could run it for other items or whatever. But you can see, here's my current quantity on hand, and then these fields here. Quantity sold in each of 6 weeks. So this is trending. So the week of December 7th, December 14th, and then week December 21st, December 28th, January. So as you look across those 6 columns, you see trends, right? Look kind of slow, kind of picked up towards the end, and then dropped off. So trending. Along with the trending, you can see what's your current quantity on hand was over here, and I'll show you over here what's your weeks on hand. So just, again, informational, but people, they're looking for that kind of trending information. 6-week history is one. Then sometimes people say, well, that's a nice trend, but I'm really interested in a bigger picture. There's a report called 12-month. And again, I already have this filtered to one item so you can see this. I'll just preview this. And we'll go like this. And now we're looking at a single item, but you can see, and I showed a couple stores here, but you can see by month, January, February, March, blah, blah, blah. So again, for the folks who are interested or asking questions about trending, there are 2 reports. There's tons of reports that can run a report and say, you know, sales in this date range. We have tons of reports that do that. But there are 2 reports that will show you trends. So I did it. It's 9:53. My goal is 9:50, so I ran 3 minutes over. We have just a few minutes left. Again, reminder to everybody, Counterpoint Fix Fee, you can have your follow-up questions. We'll get them answered. We can even schedule some follow-up training if these topics were super interesting. Folks not on Counterpoint Fix Fee doesn't mean you can't call us too. We're happy to schedule some training if any of this was super cool and you want to know more. So I'm going to attempt to open this up to chatting. I realize we covered a ton of information, but if anyone wants to chime in here, I'm going to open up my chat and see if we can help out here. Okay, JC's here. I want to find it. What reports? Thank you, Eric. What reports allow to sort by a vendor item number? Sort by. All right, so I'm going to go back to This would be I'm going to go sales history, reports, and I'll go check out sales by group, the one that we spent a good deal of time today. For grouping choices, I'm going to choose, and I'm already guessing that this is not exactly what Eric wanted to know, but I'll start here. On this report, I could group this by primary vendor. As soon as I see it, my eyes are not so great. Let's see here. JC's looking at her laptop too. She's going to find it before I do. Here we go. Primary vendor. So under ticket history line, primary vendor. And so this report now, which was a category sales by category, this becomes the sales by vendor report. This is just 1 week, but this gives you vendors running down the side. On the merchandise analysis, let's go back to inventory, reports, merchandise analysis. Let's see if this is true. We have a choice to group by. Do we get? Oh, there we go. This is probably really what Eric was asking. Knowing Eric, I bet this is what you really meant, or we're curious to see. This is our merchandise analysis report. Analyzed by item, group by, we said vendor, show me top 10. So this becomes a top 10 seller within your vendors, right? So now, let me go over one page. I've got a vendor, and then I've got my top sellers in a particular vendor. So I hope, Eric, I hope that was a hitter for how do you sort a report by vendor. You also asked about secondary vendor. I'll be the first to say that Counterpoint's pretty light when it comes to anything to do with secondary vendors. Everything that you see reporting, whatever, Counterpoint's always looking at primary. Doesn't mean we couldn't create some cool custom reports to go after secondaries, but standard Counterpoint doesn't have much in the way of reporting on secondary vendors. All right, I'm glancing back at the chat here. We've got just a few minutes here. Anybody else? I was talking to my wife last night. I said, Virginia, I'm just kind of surprised how we got 75 people showing up. And she said, well, yeah, because they can come in remote. They can be completely anonymous. She said, I would do other things while I was listening to the video. And when it's over, you get a video. So my wife completely understands why 75 people showed up. Thank you, Connie. Thank you. See, Connie. Yes, my wife, she's 10 times smarter than I am. She can multitask. I have no idea what multitasking is. Makes no sense to me. All right, just 2 minutes left here. Thank you, everybody, so much for dialing in today. I hope this was useful. I believe JC will be sending out a survey following this. Please take a moment. We're not fishing for compliments, but anything we can do to make our next training better, or if there's something that wasn't clear today, please let us know. In answer to where will the recording be, JC will send out a link, and we'll get that out to you before end of day today. I think what we'll do, JC, let's include the link to the first training as well, because why not? And as we do these each time, you'll get a library of really great videos. Oh, you guys are so great. Thank you for your nice compliments. I thank you. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Sagma. Thank you. Thank you, Charan. I don't know if I pronounced your name right. Charan, thank you so very much. Again, on that survey, feel free to get any questions to us, or feel free to email JC or myself any questions that came out of today, any follow-up that would be helpful. Would be very helpful. Be very happy to help out any way we can. Jeff, thank you. All right, I see we've gotten down to 19, 17, 16. Just a reminder, the last 15 people on the call today get a puppy. So we will be sending that out to your workplaces. Be sure to have some puppy chow ready to go. These are smaller dogs, but they need to be walked. They will need to be potty trained. They do have their shots. Oh, I'm sorry, we're only down to 13. Well, someone came back. Maybe they heard about the puppy offer. The last 5 people on the call today will be receiving a trip to Hawaii. That is correct. You'll be receiving 1 trip to Hawaii. You'll have to provide your credit card number so we can verify you are the person that we are giving the trip to. So please email us your credit card numbers, and we will get that out to you today. Okay, honestly, I'm just checking to see who's still left on the call. Okay, we're down to 12. You guys have a lot of guts. Or maybe you're just multitasking like my wife, and you're not paying any attention to us whatsoever. So we're down to 12 multitaskers. All right, everybody. That's all I got. Sorry I couldn't talk with you in person. It would have been so much more fun. Perhaps next time we can do something in person. Reach out to us, and we'll pick up the trail where we left off. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.